Hi everyone. I've got an interesting guest, a bit closer to home. It's my son Arjun, who is now preparing to actually fly to Tunisia, of all places, to start playing tennis again after the challenges of COVID last year. And now he's preparing to play some futures events over in Africa to move his way into the ATP Tour. And I suppose this discussion is more about how COVID impacted on him last year and the journey, and perhaps why, in one way, COVID was a blessing in disguise, because you were in Spain when it all hit,
Yeah.
and there were specific things that you were going through in your in tennis, and which I suppose in one way we were privy to know. It was like at a crossroads
Yeah.
of what was going on. So last year, I know that was it March that you were preparing to fly to Spain, and on the flight
Yeah.
to Spain, the ATP tour got cancelled,
Mm.
and so you had to go to Spain, come back, fly back to Qatar, and it was a 65-hour journey back virtually to get back to Australia to avoid the lockdown and being stuck in either Spain or Qatar. So
Yeah.
what actually happened prior to that with your experiences in Spain when you were on, you're playing qualifying matches to get onto into the Futures Tour?
Um, I was I was I was playing a lot. Like I traveled that entire year. All 2019,
Yeah,
I left Sydney, I left Australia in February to go to Mexico, and I was in Mexico for about 2 months, and
yes,
then I went to Germany to play club tennis
yeah,
after that.
yeah,
And I was there for about 3 to 4 months. And then after that, I traveled around Europe playing futures in a lot of places, and mainly a lot in Spain. Ended up meeting this coach who I seem to really click with, name's Juan. Um, Still, I really think he's a great coach and really great guy. And I started working a bit together with them, but I was really struggling to win matches. I was just, a lot of uh, probably performance anxiety, I would say,
mhm,
where I was just getting really tight. I wasn't, playing what my ability is, and it's easy to say that
mhm,
because everyone, will because there's no pressure in training. Everyone
yeah,
can play at a better level. So where it counts is in the matches, but a lot of the pressures and stuff that I felt was a lot of self uh it was just put on by
created,
myself.
yeah,
Yeah. So when I was working with one, like, they got a lot of my mindset to go off the outcome, and the focusing on the outcome was really what was uh really driving the probably the type of anxiety, or if you could call it, or
the
just
pressure,
the being tight, yeah, pressure in
yeah,
the matches and not being able to compete properly,
yeah,
and to what my level is in general.
yeah,
And uh, that really helped. And then I came back around December, or end of around November, end of
mm,
November or so, and then did a training block here. Ended up getting injured in. I was meant to go back in January, and I got injured, and then I left in March of it. And then, as you said, I left, and on the flight there, everything got cancelled, and Spain was going into lockdown the next day.
yeah,
So I ended up having to come back.
mm,
Spent 2 weeks in quarantine, home quarantine. It wasn't hotel quarantine at that time.
yeah,
And I hit with a good mate of mine, Max, and he was working with a coach, Nathan Healey.
yes,
And that was probably maybe May or
mm,
June.
yes,
Um, and I really liked where Healy was coming from. I got not enough nice things to say about him. He's really helped me over the course, but he a lot of his philosophies, when I spoke to him, it really clicked with me. It was a
mm,
lot about the presence, and a lot of getting out of your own way, a lot to do with not playing your best or not competing your best, and being able to do what you want to do is a lot of the ego coming in, and then a lot of not being present because you're anxious about the future, or you're mad, sad, or pumped up even about the past, but living in the present and what needs to be done at that particular moment, along with visualization and all of that really changed my perspective. I knew I was looking for something. I just couldn't put a finger on it. I couldn't articulate it, and Healey was able to really speak to that side, which was great. And then I played a lot of.
He was a tour player as well.
Yeah, Healey got to, I think, I want to say 160 in singles in the world, and top 30 doubles player as well. So really accomplished
good.
himself.
I think you're telling me that he was behind Lleyton Hewitt.
Yeah, he coached Hewitt. He coached Hewitt for a while. I'm not sure exactly, but he was actually coaching Hewitt when Hewitt had that win over Feds in the final of I want to say Queens. I can't remember, but when he beat Federer, Healey was coaching him at that time.
Yes.
In all seriousness, I've tried to do it myself a long time. From about 16 or so to 22. I reckon I was trying to do it myself. I reckon that there was nothing someone else could say that I didn't already know, or that they couldn't, or that every time I told someone, like, they would just tell me something a little bit different or a little bit different perspective. I'm like, I already know it or whatever. But ever since I started working with coaches and mentors and everything, I've seen the improvement in myself to no ends. It's not even comparable. I wish I did it earlier.
Yeah, it really is. There has to be a great deal of work done on the self to improve before you are actually open to trialing new things and taking a chance and changing your game plan. Because if you don't, that just reinforces stuck thinking, frozen thinking. And then you started working with him, and then you met another guy, which he's such a top guy, Nick Landau, who was a tour player as well. And so in one way, Nick is an amazing guy. I watched him hitting. He hits the ball so well. And he brings a different type of skill set. Then you had Chris Steele, who worked on the mental side of the game as well. And so
sorry, go ahead.
Steele is amazing.
Yeah, Steely's unreal. Steely's known me since I was probably 10 or so. So he's kind of been like with me on and off throughout my entire journey, my entire career. I actually hadn't spoken to him in I'd probably say a couple years, and I was up in Brisbane playing some UTRs, which is a universal tennis ranking. It's a different type of system, and not ATP. While everything was closed down, those were the only tournaments that were available, but still quite high level. Top 20 players in Australia play it basically, and he was watching all of my matches, and I called him up. I was really struggling, like really mentally struggling, and he just knew what to tell me. He really simplified everything down, and he was like, yes, it feels terrible, you say you want to stop, you want to do this, you want to do that, like everything's really negative. And he's like, okay, you got to decide. You're either playing there or you're not. So first of all, you got to decide that. I said, all right, I want to play. Like, I want to continue playing right now. I'm not going to come home. And then he was like, all right, well then, now that you've made that decision, now we're just going to make it really, really simple. What do you have? And what, don't try and play, or don't try and do something that you think you should have today because, of what you've known in the past to be true.
Yes.
Just play with what you have now and be the best version of yourself, and and something so simple, and just the best version of yourself looks different every single day. And
Yes.
in all honesty, you can never really achieve it. But,
Yeah.
As humans, or anyone who is some type of achievement-based person, is always going to be striving. So it's motivating to try and be the best version of yourself, especially when everything is going bad. And it had nothing to do with my success, after the match. It had nothing to do with the outcome of winning or losing. But it was about, was I able to be the best version of myself? Yes.
Yeah.
Did I improve? Like, is there a way forward from this match? Because if you're swearing and you're, kicking up a fuss, and, you're yelling at the umpire and you're blaming everything else, and you're not taking ownership, and you're not taking responsibility for your own actions, for your own, your own development, and, everything you do is a choice. And if you're not doing that, then you're not actually doing anything. You're just going through the motions. And so he really helped me. And when I called him, I think I had lost like 6 or 7 straight matches. And it wasn't like a straight turnaround, just like that. But each match I played after that was a lot better. And then I went into the next tournaments in Canberra, and I beat players that I lost to in Brisbane only 2 weeks ago. And just really, you can just really see the progress. And and because I wasn't really able to speak to Healey, I think he was a little bit busy during that time, and just having someone being able to be there for me and watch and go through my progress with me, and just show me a different perspective, because it's easy to go in a spiral. That was really good. There's a lot of good things to say about Steve.
And I think a lot of people are fearful of change. They want to stick to what they're doing. They want it easy. They don't understand the concept that if you do want to change, you have to work at it. And you have to get feedback. You've got to be willing to receive feedback, not just say, it doesn't work, I'm not doing it, let me try something new. And it's just that people are just fearful of actually trying things new. And yet they don't seem to understand that's how you grow the fastest.
Yeah, I kind of, I think sport's really, really good with that, because, everything, all adversity is really condensed into very quick, and, you can either be in or out of, like in there for a long time, or you can be out of there really quickly.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of adversity that when you go through, like, I suppose, if you're just going through day to day, like, or, whatever you're calling people, or you're in some type of selling job, or it's really easy to get caught up in doing the same thing day in, day out. And I've done that a lot throughout my training, doing the same things and expecting a different result, because it's so comfortable.
Yes.
You can't see how another way would work. And if it does sound a little bit off brand, you can't possibly wrap your head around it. And it's not to say that you take everything fully without doing any sort of thinking about it, but looking at different perspectives. Like, been working with Nick Lindell, like you said, he's also like really great player. He got to like 180 in the world as well when he was like young, like 19. We have a lot of differing opinions on things, and some things I won't take on, but if we agreed on everything, then what does he have to offer me as a coach? Like, what does he have to offer me as a mentor? It's honestly in the disagreements or things that I
what's the value of a different viewpoint?
Like, if I was just getting the same thing, then why am I paying him?
Like it doesn't make any logical sense. Yet there are so many people who want the same thing, because it makes them feel comfortable within themselves. And
like, sorry, I was just saying, like, that's a choice, you know.
yes.
It's another choice, but you know, it's not easy either. No, even though it's simple, it's not easy. I completely understand, because you don't the unknown, you're worried that it could go even worse.
Yeah.
You know, like it's completely, and that's why I mean, for me personally, playing sport, I have to take in everything and really think about what I'm getting told and have to buy into it before I can really apply it. But you know, like, some things that I think that Nick is saying is like incorrect. I go away, I think about it, I even try it out a little bit. If I don't like it, I tell them. Then we'll have another discussion, or you know, I'll work on it, or I'll do it and it won't work at the start. And then, you know, a few weeks later, I'm like making the same errors, or doing the same certain tactical thing wrong or whatever. I'll end up coming back and being like, oh, well, you know, go back to that thing, and it actually does end up working out. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm sorry. But you know, yeah, I completely understand as well, I suppose, is what I was trying to say. But sometimes you got to take the leap.
Tension that we feel around change, that either it's our biases that either stop us from moving ahead or not. And I was just talking to someone today, and one of the most important things is the lack of self-awareness of yourself is one of the key reasons why you don't actually change, because you actually have very little awareness of what you're doing, and you're just doing. You're just on the grindstone, and you're like that little thing that runs in around in circles, and you're not getting anywhere, but you're working bloody hard. And it's just like, I can remember the times when, you know, you're on the tennis court and you're just hitting tons of balls, and you know, the coach tells you just hit more balls. And no one actually questions that, and you go, why?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a place for working hard. Everyone's got to like work a certain amount.
It's like make your calls, but improve everything you do.
Exactly. Like, I'm a perfect example. Like, when I was 15, 16, 17, 18, when I was trying to do it myself, I was like, oh, I'm missing a lot. So what's the way forward? Okay, well, I must not be training enough. So I, you know, started going from, instead of doing 2 hours a day of just hitting, not including any off stuff, I was like, well, maybe I got to increase this to 3 hours. And then at 3 hours, I was still missing, or still, you know, doing the same thing. And I was like, oh, well, maybe I got to play. Now I got to play more. So I was on 4. Then like got to a stage, I was on like 4.5 hours on court, which is a lot of hours on court, like 4.5, almost 5 hours sometimes. And I'm still doing the same thing. And I'm like, well, you know, there's not much more I can really hit during the day. And that caused a whole bunch of other issues, you know. It caused injury, it caused a little bit of burnout, like just mental burnout. I've never been someone who ever stops. But, you know, I definitely mentally just felt really fried. And going into matches, you weren't confident. Like, how many balls have I hit? Like, and I still not getting this thing right. It's pretty mentally taxing.
Yeah, it's just like because, you know, I hate the word grind, and I detest that word grind, and I detest that word hustle, because it seems to me that if you're grinding it, everything is hard, and if you're having to grind and hustle this, it doesn't actually mean that you're enjoying what you're doing. And to me, with what I do, is about serving people and helping people to become better, and it's a mental approach to life. And unfortunately, in many industries, it's not understood that you actually have to develop and have to change yourself to go to the next level. And you have to be comfortable. And, you know, as an old adage line is, you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And you're not going to nail it 100%. Yet sports gives us so many examples of people who haven't got it right. but they've gone back, worked at it, improved it. Tiger Woods has won. He's winning majors. He takes a year off the circuit to improve his swing because he recognized that swing will never take him to the next 10 years. So, Djokovic changed his service motion. All these guys are evolving, yet in many fields, most people are oblivious to the work that goes behind the scenes of change. And I think COVID was a great opportunity for many, many people to take stock of their lives and actually learn to and educate themselves on figuring out where they want to go, how they want to go, and what skills gap they have. And I think that's, you're going off to Tunisia with a range of skills that you wouldn't have had if you hadn't stopped and taken a time out in your whole program and go, okay, I've got to reassess everything I'm doing.
Yeah, for sure. I think we talk a lot about that, like be comfortable being uncomfortable. We've talked about it a lot over the dinner table or whatever. I think we kind of feed off each other. I mean, you've read a lot of sports psych books, and it helps me a lot knowing, just a lot of things, but even, some of the other psychology stuff you tell me with other people, what they go through and how hard it is to change it. Coming from a different perspective, it's kind of almost nice knowing that my competition, struggles with a lot of these things, or, and it feels like there's more opportunity or more room to grow. And, at the end of the day, that's what I'm really trying to do, is just keep growing and keep improving. And that's what this trip is about. It's been a while since I've been able to play any futures with any traveling or anything. So, just going away and really trying to improve and test out, what I'm trying to do. Obviously winning, everyone wants to win, but it's really like secondary. Like, it goes without saying. Like, I don't need to say it. But there's a lot of things. There's a lot of steps and a lot of things in between.
That's right.
Now and winning.
Absolutely. It's like everyone wants to close the deal, but what happens between that and closing the deal is where the whole emphasis has got to go. I'm going to be following your progress, as you know, and hopefully that some of the people that are going to watch this podcast can understand that growth is a continual process, and it's tough, it's challenging, but it's also rewarding once you take that first decision to go, okay, I'm going to do something different, because you never know how things can actually pan out. You really can't tell. But that's life in general, right?
For sure, that's what makes it interesting, eh?
Absolutely. Otherwise, it'd be boring as what they say.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. I'm going to wrap it up, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again.
Yeah. All right.
See ya.
Bye.